Hello, this is Andrine, Jewish American Priestess. We're here today for a Tarot and Hebrew reading. Today I'm going to choose 3 cards from the Wildwood Tarot. And we're going to pull 3 Hebrunes out of a glass and gold set and see what's up for you all today. So I'm using the Wildwood Tarot cards today, and I'm just going to do some shuffle and see what comes out. Right now in my part of the world, it is the winter, still the month of Tevet. We've just passed through the full moon, still shining beautifully up in the sky. Kind of going into a still time of the year. Okay, our 3 cards have appeared. Take a look at each of these cards and choose which one seems to be speaking to you today. And then we'll do a reading. I'll put the timestamps below and you can see quickly where your reading is. So for card number 1, we have the Ace of Arrows. That corresponds to the traditional Ace of Swords. It says the breath of life. For card number 2, we have the Shaman. And that corresponds to the traditional Magician. And for card number 3, we have the Pole Star. And that corresponds to the Star card in the traditional tarot. So take a moment to see which one of these cards is calling to you today. And I'll put the timestamps below, and I'll see you there in your reading. All right, for those of you who chose the Ace of Arrows, the breath of life. So traditionally, the Ace of Arrows, I said, corresponds to the Ace of Swords. It's all about communication and breath. So we need our breath in order to speak, and in order to see clearly, we need to have breath. Breath is, the breath of life. It is the spirit, the way that we become alive is when we take our first breath, and when we leave this earth, this earthly plane, this body, we breathe out for the last time. And the Ace of Arrows is about breath, about feeling that breath within you. And it's also about speech, because we need our breath to speak. If you've ever been out of breath, either because you've been running, or because you're coughing, or because you're laughing, it's very difficult to speak. So this Ace of Arrows is about communication, and you'll see that arrow is shooting straight up into the sky. It's pointing straight up toward the heavens. So it's about communication with the divine. You can see also this wreath of mist or smoke is also rising up to the heavens. So communication with the divine, also possibly being able to grasp something, maybe a new idea, or understanding a truth that will help you get to the bottom of whatever issue you're dealing with. And this is the new opportunity for that, to be able to cut through all the garbage and get straight to the point of the matter, whatever it is. So we're going to set our card over here to the side. I'm going to take out 3 Hebrunes today. This is, like I said, a little tiny glass and gold set. Our first one is going to be about the situation at hand. And we have the letter Tav. I'll bring these each up and I'll zoom in a bit so you can see them better. The second is, what is our challenge right now? You see the letter Nun. And the third is, what is our consequences or outcome given the current circumstance? And we have the letter Resh. Okay, wow, that's beautiful. All right, let's scooch this in to see if I can get a better, clearer picture here. All right, so the first letter that came out is the letter Tav. And Tav is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So it's a stamp or a seal. It is said to be the signature of the divine on the completion of the engraving of the channels, the same way these channels are engraved into this hillside here. There's this engraving of the channels through which the divine flows into this world, and the Tav is the stamp or seal or signature at the end of that finished engraving. So Tav is about an ending. Something is coming to an end, and that seems to be our central issue today. We have something that has been going on for some time, and it's at the end. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think everything changes and ends, as we know. So Tav is this end of the engraving of the channels that the letters created when the divine put the world and the universe into motion. We did just have the last year end, 2022 just came to an end. Maybe something else is coming to an end for you. The Tav also is the letter that rules over the moon in the sky. So we just passed through a full moon cycle as well. So we have the full moon. It's just passed through, so it's still pretty bright in the sky. But that cycle is also coming to a close. After the fullness of the moon, we diminish and dwindle down back to the new moon. So something about the moon, something possibly about this next couple of weeks is coming to an end. It corresponds, in my understanding, to the moon card also in tarot, which is about the unconscious or the subconscious. It's about mysterious, unknown depths. And since we are still in the dark time of the year, this is a good time to plumb those depths. We've got something that maybe needs to be uncovered and discovered right now. And it can be about the end of time, like when judgment comes, when we have to make a decision and decide what is going to be resurrected and what are we letting go of. And when you think about the judgment, traditionally in most religious practices, it's about separating the good from the bad or deciding whether someone's going to heaven or hell. But judgment really is about looking over all that's come before and discerning, what am I going to take with me, and what can be composted, what can be put back into the earth. So that's our main issue right here. It also is representative of the binary continuum between sovereignty and slavery. Where are you feeling sovereign in your life, and where are you enslaved? And how can you free yourself from the slavery part and boost up the part of you that has sovereignty in your life? And perhaps with the Ace of Arrows here, you'll have something that occurs to you, something that just becomes really clear suddenly with this ending that you need to release or let go of. And our challenge in the situation is the letter Nun. You'll see it looks like somebody who's kneeling down and has a bowed head. They are humble. So Nun is about humility and humbleness. And this may be a challenge for you right now. Perhaps you're having some issues with feeling appropriately humble. Not humiliated, but not feeling like you're full of yourself. Because it is important to find one's right place with humility in the world. Nun is also about loyalty, being faithful and being loyal to, and first of all, oneself, but also being loyal to those to whom you've made a commitment. The letter Nun also is the first letter of the word Nes, which means miracle. Something transforming. And it is the foundation of locomotion, which means slow, steady progress forward. So maybe this is the challenge. You've got something that's come to an end and you want to blast forward into the next iteration. But locomotion is important. Starting out slow, steadily moving forward. Not just running ahead to the next thing, but sitting with what's finished, having some humility about where is our place in the situation before moving on to the next thing. So that's the challenge right now. And our outcome, interestingly, is the letter Resh. And Resh is a head. It's the word Rosh begins with Resh, and Rosh means head. So it's a beginning. It's a new beginning. So I find that amazing. It's about a seed. So Resh is the binary foundation of seed and barrenness. So we have something, a seed that's about to be planted. It should all go well here. We've had an ending. Now we're slowly moving forward with locomotion and humility, which can be challenging. And we're moving forward to plant a new seed and get a new beginning out of all of this. In my reading of the Hebrunes with regards to how they correspond to the tarot cards, the letter Resh corresponds to the Tower card. And I know that that can be alarming for some people, but the tarot card is about, again, destroying what is unnecessary and rebuilding. And since we've had an ending here with Tav, we're going to have a change that's happening. Something is transforming, and we're having a new seed that's being planted. So there's a sudden change that's happening next. Possibly chaotic, but hopefully if we can sit with humility. And the Nun card corresponds to the Hermit in traditional tarot. So after this ending, getting some clarity, maybe from that moonlight that's shining above right now, sitting in humility with what we've learned from the situation, and then starting a slow, steady growth toward a new seed. And the Resh also, because it is corresponding with the head, also corresponds to intellect. And we have this Ace of Arrows here, which is about intellect, because air cards tend to be about the mind, about thinking and cutting through all the unnecessary things to find the heart of the matter. So with the Ace of Arrows, the Resh is offering us a new beginning. And all aces are about new beginnings and about clarity with the mind, clarity of thought. I'm going to pull out one more Hebrew just for some advice for our situation. And let's see what it wants to tell us today. All right, we have the letter Shin. And the letter Shin is the letter that is a mother letter. It's one of the creation elements. It's the creation element of fire. And it's also about the head in the body. It's about the stars in the sky, stars, moon, and sun in the sky. So we have the moon here, and we have the head here, and the Shin kind of brings those together into this fiery place. The Shin is the second to last letter of the alphabet. And some say it is the actual last letter because the Tav is a signature. So it's also about a near ending, or if not an ending completely. It means fire. It means return, shuva. It means spirit and indwelling presence, shekhinah, as well as wholeness, shalom. It's about transformation through fire, like a phoenix rising up from the ashes, which is so appropriate here for advice. Find the transformation. Set this right over here. So it's like almost as if the fire at the bottom is sending up the smoke to the heavens. So our advice on this is to burn, to shine, to burn off what's unnecessary, burn off all the dross, and move forward through transformation. Let go of all that's come before that is unnecessary, and shine brightly. Find our clarity of thought, light it up, communicate with the divine, find our wholeness and our indwelling presence, and listen to that inner fire, that passion that burns. Follow the passion, but in, again, slow locomotion way. Find that spark, though. That seems to be the advice here. So for those of you who chose the Ace of Arrows today, this has been your reading. I hope you find it helpful, and I'll hope to see you here again. All right, for those of you who chose the Shaman today, let's take a look at your card. Look at this guy. He's a wild character. He corresponds in traditional tarot to the magician. So he's got all the tools here. He's got some fire. He's got a staff. It looks like he's got a knife and a cup also. So he's got all four elements of the earth, air, fire, and water, and he's using them to do whatever work he needs to do. It's a wonderful, auspicious card, and I love the wildness in his face. Let me just bring him up a little closer. He's wearing I believe it's a bear mask. Got all kinds of animal skull friends here, helping him on his journey, and a variety of artistic designs on his clothing and skin. Seems like he's an older fellow with some wisdom about him. Yeah, so the shaman is a person who has all these elements at his disposal and also uses them resourcefully toward whatever the goal is at hand. Shamans traditionally travel between the worlds and are able to communicate with those on the other side. And it's about real magic. It's about being able to marshal one's resources to create as one sees necessary in the world. So let's set our shaman off to the side here. We're going to pull out 3 Hebrunes today to see what our message is. The first one that we're going to take out has to do with our current situation. We have the letter Kuf. Our second is, what is our challenge in our situation right now? Pay. And the third is, what is the outcome or consequence given the current situation? Oh, we have the Ein Sof, the blank. I love that one. Okay, so the letter Kuf is the letter that begins the word Kadosh or Kodesh. And that means that which is designated for service to divinity. Anything can be a holy thing, but it has to be designated for service. And anything that one traditionally thinks of as designated for service can be used profanely. So it's got this double-edged issue that it's impossible to know whether something is holy or not until you see it in use or until you know its intention. And the letter Kuf is the one letter that reaches below the line in Hebrew. So it's about reaching down into the earth to find the holiness, to use the resources of the earth to create service for divinity. This guy over here on the side is doing just that. You'll see that he's using tools like stones and smoke and skulls that might be considered, garbage in some people's understanding. And here he's designated them for holiness, for service toward divinity, toward spirit. The letter Kuf also is the first letter of the word Kof, which means monkey. And so it also points to our animal spirit. And animals are inherently holy. And they also may not have the same standards we do with regards to respect to each other or generosity, depending on their resourcing. So it can have to do with our animal nature. Like perhaps there's this desire for holiness, but if we give into our animal nature to just take what we want without concern for others, then we may have lost some of our holiness around this, or our sacredness. Let's go with sacredness. The letter Kuf corresponds to the number 100, which is one of those numbers of wholeness and completion. It's 10 times 10. And 10 is the letter Yud, which is the first letter of the name of the divine in Hebrew. And 10 times that is this ultimate manifestation of divinity in the form of sacredness. In my reading of the Hebrunes, as they correspond to the tarot cards, the letter Kuf corresponds to the magician, the shaman. Because it is someone who reaches into the earth to find materials to turn into holiness. So here we have the Hebrune that corresponds exactly with the shaman here. And our challenge in this situation is the letter Pe. This is very interesting. The letter Pe is the mouth of the divine, speaking creation into existence. You can see it looks like a little mouth. And if you look at the negative space, you can see the letter Bet. Bet is the letter that is the first letter of the Torah, Bereshit, in the beginning. So powerful speech coming into existence and manifesting what one wants to see in the world. So this is the challenge here. How are we using our voice right now? How are we using our voices to create what we want to see in the world? How are we blessing instead of cursing? Expressing gratitude for what is rather than complaining about what isn't in the world. That seems to be the challenge here, that we've got this issue about speech, about communication, about the mouth of the divine, about being able to speak with the divine speaking through us rather than just gossiping or using our voices inappropriately in this situation. That seems to be our big challenge right now, is how are we using our voices to create as we wish? And interestingly, because this is the magician card correspondence, you may have heard this before, but the magical word abracadabra, which we've heard in cartoons probably most of our life, abracadabra is what the magician says, comes possibly from an ancient Hebrew phrase, which means I speak, and what I speak comes into existence. So we need to use our words wisely so that that what we speak comes into existence. Knowing that, we want to use our words wisely so that when we speak, the things we desire come into existence, not curses, because those will turn back on us. The letter Pe corresponds to the tarot card, the Hierophant, in my reading of it, because it is this mouthpiece for the divine. And since this is our challenge right now, what is it that we are using our mouths for? Pe also corresponds to the number 80, which is the ultimate manifestation of the infinite. 8 being the infinity symbol, and in the traditional tarot card, you'll see the infinity symbol over the head of the magician. So I love that we've got the infinity symbol right here. And this is not just the infinity symbol, it's the ultimate manifestation of the infinite symbol. So it is this magical time beyond time. And that can be challenging, for sure, to think about the no-endedness of all. It's important to speak as we wish to see in the world in order to manifest what needs to be manifested. And again, it can be challenging at times. And our outcome, given the current circumstances, is the Ein Sof. It's a blank. I always keep the blank Hebrew in my sets because it corresponds also to the infinite. Ein Sof means without end, boundlessness, the void, timelessness, and the primordial material out of which we create all the things. That the shaman here has reached into the primordial material to designate for service items to be used to create what needs to be created for magic in the world. All of time is a construct, and we, once we leave this plane, may go into a timelessness, boundlessness, and return to the matter from which we were formed. We all are, were, and will be part of the oneness of all things. This corresponds to the rune Weird, which is another blank. It's called WYRD, and it means fate, destiny. And the outcome will be whatever our fate is. It's unseen perhaps right now, but it is there if we can tap into the designation for service, the shaman, the creation of, using the utilization of materials at hand to create what needs to be created, to speak our reality into existence. We'll find ourselves blessed with the Ein Sof, that boundlessness, the infinite twice, the infinity over the shaman's head, the holiness. The shaman here twice. Some real strong magic coming up through here. I'm going to pull out one more just to see what if there's any advice for us in this situation. It seems pretty clear. Go into the magic. And the letter that's coming out is, oh, interesting, it's the letter He. The letter He is the first letter of the word Hineni, which means here I am for service. Here I am ready for service. It's about presence, being present. That's the whole advice here. Stay present with yourself. Be here. Listen to divinity. Say to the divine, I am here and ready for service. And be prepared to do what you are told to do. So for those of you who chose the shaman card, it's time to make the magic. Get listening. Stay present. Speak appropriately. Reach for the holiness. Use the materials at hand to create what needs to be created. You will know because you will listen. You will be present and listen. So for those of you who chose the shaman, this has been your message. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you here next time. Right, for folks who chose the pole star, this is your reading, star people. So this is the northern star, the northmost star. It is the light through which we receive guidance when we are out in the woods, lost perhaps. How do we find our way? We look up to the North Star, a guiding star. And in this particular card, you can see this person is traveling into the forest, going into a tunnel on a path that is lighted by this star shining down, and all the stars spinning above it in the sky. The star in traditional tarot is about optimism, boundlessness, peace, and guidance, hope, and renewal. And all those things are incorporated into this star card as well. Finding one's way in the dark, using it as a guide on the path. So let's see if we can get more information about your situation here. I'm going to pull out 3 Hebrunes today. The first one is going to be about our situation that we're dealing with. We have the letter Nun. The second one will be, what is our challenge for this situation? We have the letter Resh. And the third is, what is the consequences or outcome based on our current situation? And we have the letter Gimel. Great. All right, let's take a look at each of these. Starting out with the letter Nun, we have this situation is all about humility. It's all about remaining humble. You can see that this looks like a kneeling person with their head bent, and they are contemplating their situation with humility, not with humiliation, but with humility. Being appropriately humble in any situation is appropriate. It's good, because it's easy to either think that one is just really rocking it, really killing it, or that, I'm not worthy, to go to those two extremes is tempting in any situation, but there's a middle place where there's appropriate humility. Where do you stand with regards to the stars? You didn't make them, but you are made of them. And so, there's an old Talmudic tradition to carry two pieces of paper in your pockets. One that says, I am only dust and ashes, and one that says, the universe was made for me. And both of those things are true. So finding where your place is right now in the world is the situation that we're in. The letter Nun. And the letter Nun for me, in my reading of it, corresponds to the Hermit card in the traditional tarot, which is about contemplation, sitting, possibly kneeling, and finding one's place, sitting and contemplating one's place in the universe. It also can have to do with faithfulness and loyalty. If you've made commitments, remember to be faithful and loyal to those to whom you have made agreements. And if those agreements aren't working for you, you need to renegotiate them, not just break them, but have the conversations that need to be had to renegotiate any agreements you've made. Nun also has to do with locomotion, which I love, because here is our character walking slowly into the forest. Locomotion is about slow, steady movement forward. Remembering to look up, to find the guiding light as one moves forward into the path. So Nun is our current situation. It is, again, about humility and slow, steady progress forward. Our challenge in this situation is the letter Resh. Resh is the letter that begins the word Rosh, which means head. And so it is about a new beginning. It's about the head and the body, thought, intellect. Maybe there's some challenges around thought that maybe we're thinking too much and not listening enough. That's what strikes me in this reading. It can be about a new beginning. It can be about a seed of a thing forward, and that may be part of it. The challenge may be partly beginning something new, but the hit I get on this right now is that it's more about thinking. This is the head, so it's about thinking and really trying to figure out the nitty-gritty, get into the details. And what I'm seeing here is that the situation is about slow, steady growth, slow, steady movement forward, and not thinking too hard. Sitting instead, listening instead, being a little hermity, which is to say, really just contemplating without thinking, if that makes sense. Sitting and listening in meditation rather than talking or thinking too hard about it. Letting the thoughts come to you rather than really trying to get into the weeds. And then the path will become clear. Resh also is the first letter of the word Rasha, which means wickedness. So there could be something that's dark happening right now, that maybe there's some kind of darkness going on. That's the challenge. Resh is also about bowing the head, because it is bent, just like the Nun is. So it is about bowing the head, maybe feeling poorly. Maybe there's some illness involved. I think what it's saying here is that our challenge is just thinking too much, about feeling poor, about feeling impoverished, like there's this feeling of scarcity. Resh is the foundation of the binary seed and barrenness. So maybe there's a concern about being impoverished, feeling poor, feeling that scarcity mentality rather than the feeling of abundance. But there is a seed here. There is something that's new coming. And it's important not to get too wrapped up in the thoughts about it, but instead bring yourself back up to this humility. And our outcome, based on all of this, is the letter Gimel, which I love. The letter Gimel is about forward movement, a little quicker. Still we have the steady movement forward, but Gimel is about running. It's about going quickly, running toward justice. It's the letter that begins the word camel in Hebrew, gamal. So it's like, you're getting on your camel to ride, moving forward. Gimel is the number 3 also. So there's a certain sense of harmony to the Gimel, like a steady triangle, something solid that feels really stable. That's the outcome given all of this situation. It is the binary foundation of peace and evil, is how it's generally termed, but it can be, I think of it more of wholeness and brokenness. So where do you land on that continuum between what is whole and what is maybe less whole? It's the letter that begins the word Gan, which means garden. So I think about it in terms of like the Garden of Eden. There was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So that's an important factor. I mean, the story goes that the first humans chose that. They chose to know what was right and what was wrong, what was good and what was bad. And that knowledge is essential for walking the path. Being able to discern what is right, what is wrong, what's good, what's bad. And I love that that's your outcome here, that you have this forward movement with the knowledge of what is right and what is wrong, what is whole and what is broken. What can I do to encourage wholeness and forward movement in this path? It corresponds to the traditional tarot card in my reading of them, to the Chariot. So getting in that chariot and riding forward. You know, we had our slow, steady growth here, our challenges with thinking too much, and we will be moving forward with, I don't want to say great speed, but with appropriate speed, maybe a little faster than we had started, and finding harmony in that balance of the 3. Let me pull out one more Hebrew to give us some clarity about advice for our situation. Let's see, what kind of advice do we need? And our letter is the letter Lamed. I love that. Lamed. Lamed is the one letter that reaches above the line in Hebrew. And so it's about reaching up. It's the first letter of the word Lev, which means heart. So it's about reaching up with heart toward that which is sacred and holy. And in my reading of the tarot cards, as they correspond to the Hebrew, Lev corresponds to the star card, because it's about reaching up with heart. It's about hope, optimism, boundlessness, elevation of the heart towards sacredness and divinity. It's also about learning and teaching, finding that twisting path. You can see how the lamed, it goes along and then it turns and then it goes up. Here we have this path heading toward the star, reaching up, looking up toward the star to find guidance with heart. And it is the number 30 in Gematria, so it's the ultimate manifestation of the 3, the ultimate manifestation of the Gimel, which is about forward movement. Here we have forward movement, upward movement, moving up toward the star, looking up toward the star so that we can find our way, so that we can find our path as we move along, being guided by this light above with appropriate humility, not thinking too much, not using our head as much as we listen to our heart. And we've got 2 letters that are about forward movement. We've got 1 letter saying don't think too hard, and then this final advice to listen to your heart. Listen to your heart, follow the star. Have hope. Have hope. Know that you're on the path and that you will arrive at your destination safely. So for those of you who chose the star card today, thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you here again in the future.